Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Kurtz. I'm the CEO and the founder for the Center for Optimal Brain Integration. One of our greatest joys here is shining a light on the work that people are doing across the country around trauma and trauma informed and trauma responsive. And today we have Robin Pence. I can't wait till you meet her. Robin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Robin Pence. I am the restorative practice specialist at Lynwood Elementary in Novato, California. I have been in this position for not very long. I was hired last February, so it's been about 3 months that I've been in this position. And so I tell people that I'm kind of building the airplane as I'm flying it, as we often do in education. But I actually came to this work and even being interested in this in being a restorative practice specialist because of my work in early childhood. I was a preschool teacher for 22 years. I taught with mostly federal and state agencies like Head Start and state preschool in Marin County, and just really love working with families that were in those programs, but saw in the work as a teacher that we would often get children with challenging behavior, families with challenges that were struggling. And as a teacher, I really wanted to find ways to be responsive to those children and families in a way that it's like I liken it to having tools on a tool belt, that I had strategies that I could learn that would be effective and to help those children to be well at school and to feel safe and to grow and learn. And so fortunately, in the early childhood community, I was given opportunity to train with Julie Kurtz on numerous opportunities through the ECE community, through my organization, through our Office of Education, should be MCOE, Marin County Office of Education. I took trainings that way. And then I think also through P3, the preschool to third grade initiative was additional training that I got to do with Julie. So again and again, I was given this opportunity to dive in deeper each time. It took up some time for me to fully, grasp and understand. Also, was a mentor for the Department of Education for California for the College of Marin, where I got student teachers. And so I would be mentoring student teachers. I did this for 13 years. And one of the years, our mentor group of a couple other mentors, we read your books, Julie. And then we were able to have a book study and discuss it and compare information and things like that to help each other deepen the work. So, and then I applied it. And I found that when I used trauma-informed lens in my classroom, that it was very effective, and it helped me see children based on their needs. And I got stronger with not taking it personally and just seeing as part of this child's education and development and how to support families and things like that. And now I'm in this other position where I'm taking that foundation and I've taken it into an elementary school, which is a different type of organization. They do things sometimes differently than in early childhood. But now with TK becoming universal, they're starting to have 4-year-olds on campus, and then it's going to be all the way to 5th grade at my school. And so I'm really excited to take the information, the things that I know now, and with a trauma-informed lens, and then also restorative practices, which is around working with using restorative practices such as like circles and things to help students to problem solve individual and group challenges they might be having socially, for example, where we go through a kind of a protocol to help them solve problems, and I'm a guide on the side, like a mentor, to help them solve problems and to learn to find resolution, and then go back to school and feel, letting some things go, because we know that the mind that is in the limbic emotional part of the brain, it's hard for them to focus and learn. So when they can find resolution and feel better about a challenge with someone else socially or what have you, they often will go back, and then I check in later and they, oh, yep, we're good, we're fine. So anyway,
Wow. I want to
yeah,
ask a question, Robin, before you get into the wellness center and your
yeah.
vision. You made a lot of really profound comments that I think people want to know more about. You said, I learned all of these trauma-informed practices in early childhood. And I just want to know, what did you learn? Because you said you learned stuff and you applied it. And
Mhm.
I would love to hear the top 5 most powerful trauma responsive strategies you applied after you learn them that other people can hear.
Okay. I think, one, understanding how the brain works, so that you shift your understanding. If a child, let's say, is having a challenging behavior, instead of seeing it as, oh, this Johnny again is throwing toys, and it's so frustrating, and what have you, that I look now at any person, even adults, that they are in a part of their brain that is the emotional part of their brain, like the downstairs, and that the prefrontal cortex, which is developing and doesn't fully develop till 26 or maybe even beyond that, they just don't have that capacity. So that really helps me understand the way I need to help that child regulate before even they can maybe modify their behavior. So brain development, knowing that, is really powerful. I think also the power and the importance of building relationship, making sure you have a really strong relationship with every single child that you are working with. And then, if possible, also building relationship with that family, so that there is a feeling of trust and safety, which is critical in to having success to support that student. If they do not feel safe, then it's going to be really, and if that family doesn't feel safe, it's going to be a lot harder to have any kind of outcomes that we want to see. Creating, so that's 2. Third, creating safe spaces, maybe in the classroom. Finding an area, and we do this in early childhood so well. I see it, a lot of times in early childhood, but I helped my elementary school. It's one of the first things I did, not even in the capacity of restorative practices, but in other capacities, just because I knew it was a good practice, is I helped the elementary school create reset calming spaces. And we had one in our front office. Now we don't need that because I've had the wellness center, and which I can talk more about later, but every single classroom in our school from TK all the way to 5th grade has a corner where a student can go and calm and regulate themselves. It has maybe a little carpet, a bean bag, or a soft chair, maybe some fidgets, maybe some sensory things like soft stuffies. It may have some books. It may have some places where the student can journal about their feelings. Each teacher kind of can design it to be their own. A timer is a really nice thing to have. So, and then the students need to be taught how to use that space and how they can use that space, so that it is something that students, instead of maybe something happens or maybe they arrive in the classroom and they're not okay, and then they start to escalate, and then something else happens and they escalate, and something else happens and they escalate, and then maybe they hit someone or they scream or they run out. Instead of that student, when they're not so dysregulated, could just say, I need my 5 minutes, go in the corner, take some time, do some breathing, all, the things that their teacher is supporting them to do, and then come back out and re-engage in the learning. And that happens for many, many students. That works so well. And it's also for everybody. So there's an equity element to it that I think is so important to think about, is that we're giving access to all students to have this opportunity to regulate and be successful in the classroom. The other thing I'd say that I'm been using that I really like a lot is from your website and in your training. And I've also done this with myself, for myself as an educator. I have it in the wellness space, and then I've given it to teachers who use it, who have it on the kids' desk, is your temperature gauge. So this is such a great way for children to very simply have a quick check-in about where they are emotionally without so many words. Sometimes there's kids who don't say a whole lot, or there's kids who are, maybe they're already dysregulated. They can say what color they are. And that informs us quickly that, okay, where is the student and what are some things now that I can do to help them go back down and get back to that optimal zone of green, or just so that they can re-engage. So definitely this. Did I get to 5?
I counted 6. I count, of course, because I'm hearing like layers of things in between. Like I heard understanding the brain so we have more empathy as to the why behind their behavior, and the recognition that all dysregulated behavior is telling a story. And when it's trauma, it's telling the story of my trauma. I need you to help me, not punish me. And then the second thing you said was help them regulate so they can focus. Unregulated children can't think, can't listen, can't learn. So these pathways to regulation are so important. And then you said building relationships with children and families. And then you said having these reset spaces to have a pathway for my brain to go to and to teach kids how to use it. And then you talked about the thermometer as a way to, when I lose my words, which we know for trauma impacted kids, when they lose their words, they can't communicate with words. So using the thermometer to point to something that helps them regulate. And you also said something of really important. We're faced with a lot of teachers that when we present these new ideas, it disrupts their values, perceptions, and beliefs. And to shift those or change to a new habit is really hard. So when someone says to you, Robin, this is spoiling kids, or this is coddling kids, or everybody's going to want to go to the safe space and no one's going to want to learn, what do you say? I don't mean if I'm putting you on the spot with that question, but
not at all, because I've experienced it. I've done this. So this is what I do with the teachers or the educators that might be hesitant. One thing you can do is refer them to another educator who's already using the system successfully. Oftentimes when you introduce something new, there are those 1 or 2 teachers, hopefully more, that are like, oh yes, I want that. Can you help me? And so then I'm like, yes, of course I can. And so I help help them start with something to build, like maybe it's even, I don't have any space, but I want this. So where can there be a little space? So I go in there and I'm like a journey partner to help them find this space, and then, look around the classroom. What can we use that you already have? What might be something that you might have home even that we can borrow, to just start somewhere and just baby step in, make a little space. Maybe it has a couple things in it and you can go from there. So there's there's that, baby step them in and help them get their brain around how it might look and support them. And then also partner up the reluctant teacher with the teacher who's been doing it maybe a little bit. And they're like, oh, I love it. I noticed that kids, have this 5-minute timer, and I taught them, how to use the space and what it's for. And that I've been noticing that when students, they give me a little, maybe we have a special sign that says to go, I need a little reset, I need calming space. And then that student goes over, turns the timer, and then comes right back in because they know the system. And so And then if there's a student, let's say, that's having a hard time with that space, then you can, tell the teacher, it's sometimes kids don't get it right away, to go back and reteach like we do with everything else with behavior and systems, especially the beginning of the year. We
Yep.
want to go back and make sure that students understand how to use it and be successful in that. So anyway, I have found that works really well. I also will show up with things that maybe, like, I'll put the word out, I need fidgets, and people will donate fidgets, and I'll just keep a little box of things that I know that others can use, like bean bags and things like that. And then when someone comes in new, I always step in, check in with them, and offer to support them to create the space. So I also have, like I said, like a little stash of things that I pick up for free and that I know that we can use later. So
I think this is
make it really
fascinating.
easy. Yeah.
Well, what's fascinating is that when we think about how to start something like this in a school, I think what you said is so powerful, that we have to start with early adopters, because the people that jump up with passion are the ones that are going to do it first. And that's the best way to start. Their energy then becomes contagious to other people that were in the middle of the road. And then the idea of pairing them up with somebody who's a little more reluctant is definitely one strategy that we can use. And your idea as a central person in a school now, where you are kind of the trauma informed person who's creating the initiatives for the school. What would be really fascinating, and I love how you are collecting donations so people have an easy, quick stash. There's two things that I'd love to talk about. One is, in a moment, moving towards what your wellness center is called and what your vision is. But before we go there, there are still teachers that will believe that, and rightfully so, they've been doing things the way they've been doing things for so long, but they believe this is going to spoil kids or they'll lose control of the classroom. So let's talk a little bit about how this does not spoil kids, why this is trauma responsive. Like, for the audience who's listening, let's answer that question. And if you don't feel comfortable answering that, that's okay. I can also add in, but just why is this not spoiling kids? How is this not going to be a pathway where I'm going to be sitting in the class and I'm regulated, where I'm going to just run, everyone's going to go to the safe space and no one's going to want to learn. What is your answer to that? The why we do this?
Well, I mean, I don't know of any teacher who's had this class that's like everybody's regulated all the time and everybody is coming in without trauma and everybody is just ready to learn and shows up every day, just, sitting in their desk. And, even with all the things that teachers are doing nowadays with PBIS, and maybe they're doing social skill building, I hope, things like, maybe a morning meeting. I mean, what I have witnessed and seen in the spaces is that you still have kids that are navigating how to be at school. We've had COVID, we've had families that are under a lot of stress, even more stress. I mean, the demographics I've worked with historically at my school have been mostly immigrant families and at a Title I school. And so, every teacher does things differently in terms of classroom management and what have you, but not putting in a calming space that is, again, you teach how to use it just like you teach how to use other things in your classroom. And then, I would say even try it, like just see if, and look to some other people who've already have it in place to get support and validation for doing it. You'll see that children do really well with it. They, especially like if you have a little timer where you can set a timer for 5 minutes, and they know that after 5 minutes, it's time to come back, that only one student at a time can be in this space.
Yes.
There are times a day where you can say, like maybe there's a test, or I don't know what it is. Like you can also, if you wanted to, set out a little chunk, like right now it's not available. Like you can have that if you need to. And but before in our school, children were being sent to the office or outside. So you'd see kids sitting outside the classroom. You would see kids sitting in the office. It was a lot of boys. It was a lot of boys of color often. So to me, it's an equity issue.
Yeah.
And we know that when we isolate students, there's data on this and research on this. When we isolate students, we are causing more, disruption, more dysregulation, anger, all these things. I've even been taught by my district. They had someone come in and train. They say could be even a pipeline that can go into prison later in life. So there's research behind that. So when you have a space in the classroom, it's not an isolation. It is, I'm not okay.
Punishment. It's not a punishment.
It's not a punishment. And 5 minutes to go in, and sometimes a student needs more than 5 minutes. Okay, set that timer again. Maybe you have a little sign that says, I need more time, teacher. A little, maybe a sign, you don't have to say anything. Okay, you go ahead, turn it again and take another 10 minutes or another 5 minutes to get a 10-minute break if that student needs it. Often they need 5. That's been the feedback I'm getting from the teachers. And then and then you can prevent some of that, sending children out, and then resetting quicker. And then also that equity issue of, are we being equitable if I'm sending out, like, who am I sending out of the classroom?
And exclusionary discipline practices and punishing is not going to work. And as we begin to pivot, I just want to summarize really powerful, the teacher's in control of having a reset space. And I just think it's great if we design it with the children. If we don't, then we have to teach them how to use it. It's like the earthquake and fire drills. You can't expect them to know what to do when they have a fire unless we've practiced it over and over. Why aren't we practicing emotional emergency drills and then teaching them all the pathways, the healthy pathways they can take to reset their bodies, with a reset space being one, instead of exclusionary discipline that involves punishment with an inner narrative, I'm bad, over and over and over. So Robin, thank you for these examples. In the time we have left, I think it'd be wonderful for our audience to hear you talk about the name of your well space, why you created it, what is your vision? I know you've only been in it for a short time, and we'll interview you again after you've been doing it for a long time. Just tell me your vision. Tell us your vision.
Okay, so when I took on the position of a restorative practice specialist, I didn't even have a space. So it took a minute to find the space. I asked for a portable. Because I knew that if I get into a portable, that I could create a space that probably would not be needed for a classroom later on with expansion. Sometimes you have to just use another classroom, and that's okay. It can be done. But if you can use a space that really is not usable for other things per se, you could have a longer period or be more assured that you're going to be in that space. And then I had support from an administrator to call it a wellness center, which I'm at a dual immersion school. We've been dual immersion for, I think this is coming up on maybe the 5th year. So it's relatively a new thing for us. And so we're calling it Mariposa. So the Mariposa Wellness Center, with this, the idea of that a butterfly goes through change and metamorphosis and just becomes this beautiful, we're all growing, changing. There's you can look up all kinds of quotes on butterflies and around how we grow and change. And so, butterflies are often in Latino culture, this wonderful, beautiful symbol. And so it gave it relevance. And I could say, oh, let's go to Mariposa, instead of let's go to the wellness center, or just giving it a friendly name. And so kids know it as that. And so the symbol is a butterfly, and we have a sign out front and it's next door to the family center that we just also created. I like that they're next door to each other, and they are in portables. And so in the space, I've been able to create in the beginning. So again, just like I said, when people are creating these calming corners, you use what you have. I don't have everything. I had a space that was full of instruments. It was a storage room for the instruments for the entire district. It was where the OT had her stuff once a week. And so there was a lot of time I had to kind of like navigate that while, supporting the students the best I could till the instruments can be moved. And the OT graciously, went in with the language teacher. And so then from there, what did I have on campus that I could use, or things that I could use to create a space that felt comforting and calming and that was conducive to the work. And so I was able to do that enough. And right now, Mariposa is being painted on the inside by a wonderful family that, again, volunteers coming in. I was given a little bit of startup money by my administrator who had faith in me to do this. And normally I don't have any money when I start things. So that was wonderful. And then kind of got the word out too, where other organizations started to give me a little bit of money as well to support this work. I think it's really good to be transparent, even as you're building things, so that people can see what you're doing and you're inviting them in to see and understand, because then you're going to find support out in the community of people that I mean, it's a wonderful thing to have, mentoring for students that it's trauma informed and restorative, and people want to support that. So be transparent, even if everything's not perfect. Don't have to let go of the perfect part. So that's where I'm at right now. I've created systems in the space, like a database that I can track what I'm doing, if it's restorative or preventative. I'm making systems so I can communicate with the teachers about what I'm working with the students on, so that they can reinforce it in the classroom. I've been starting to create a binder that's social emotional learning masters, that I'm looking for really, really easy handouts and things that I can chunk for educators. Like this one is strategies for oppositional kids and young adults, proactive strategies, in the moment strategies, post problem strategies, like really super fast, easy. What's the difference between punitive discipline and restorative? This might be good for a new administrator. Like I have a new administrator right now. So I have a binder that when I see something that just chunks a concept and makes it easy, I just screenshot it, print it out, and throw it in this binder. And what I'm finding is when I get a teacher to say who needs examples of like regulation strategies, I can go to the binder, pull it out, and hand it to them or go over it with them. And it's something they can have like, in as a tool in their space. Or, I modified your little the thermometer, and I added a lion and I added a little mouse. And I was using this with the TK through first grade teachers, where they had these on their desk. So that's another way, just taking things and making it so that I can hand things out and it's not all this information coming at somebody, because that's how people learn best, is in chunks and when it's related to something that they're working on right now. So those are just some things that working on to create this space. And I'm not, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I am not going to be perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm trying to be curious. I'm staying in a curious space. I'm asking questions. I'm listening. I'm seeking information to learn more strategies. And being in that space, I feel like it'll empower me to have the best, like better outcomes, I'm hoping, because, it's in the infancy of this work, to see really students progress and maybe not need as much more, time and attention in the classroom from teachers, because they have strategies for how to regulate. They understand how they feel and that they're getting to yellow and maybe orange, and they need to go get a sip of water, take a bathroom, go into the calming corner. And then I'm not getting calls, Robin, the student, needs a reset. because they are in the red and throwing things or hurting others, or the things our students can do, and it's reducing that so that children can access the learning and be in that optimal zone of regulation to learn, which should be the right of every child. Yeah.
Yes,
So
and Robin, I know we're coming to a close. I probably have two very short questions. One of them is, and I'm writing down even everything that you're saying, even though we're recording this, because it's so powerful. And I just want to thank you. What is the wellness center used for? Is it used for kids to be sent to? Is it used for teachers as a resource? Is it used for teachers to calm down? I'm still wanting to understand a little more of how it will be used by the school.
okay. So I can tell you how we've used it thus far.
Yeah.
And then I can tell you, and then every organization needs to collaboratively create systems and things so that it is usable for that community, because every school is different what their needs are. Okay. So right now, the wellness center I'm using as preventative. So let's say I have a student that's like, they would call this for PBIS, tier 3 student. Maybe they have trauma, maybe something's happening where that student is having really challenging behavior, maybe a lot of fight, flight, freeze, violence, those kiddos. What I'll do is I'll make it that the teachers will come to me, and sometimes the administrator, and then I'll find a time like once or twice a week, maybe 15 minutes. That's it, to do a pull out. And I'll bring that student back to Mariposa. Sometimes we jog to Mariposa. I have a student that likes to cartwheel because she wants to cartwheel in the classroom, and that's not okay, but she has a hard time regulating that. So we get the cartwheels out, and then we come to the space, and then I do a check-in. I give them, first I say, take a couple of minutes, just go do something in the space. And I have lots of little things that they can do just to let them transition, because none of us want to be talking right away. So a couple of minutes of just take a minute, go play for a minute. Then I do a check-in. What color are you at? And they let me know. And I have a little thing that I document that on. And then on the other side, I have a feelings chart with about 20 feelings or so in English and Spanish, because we are dual immersion and have Spanish speaking children. And then I note that as well. And then I go from that, and we set goals. We talk about, I first start with just knowing how, your feelings, we all have these feelings, and that's okay. And really normalizing that, building relationship with that student. And then, as we progress our meetings, building on that with strategies. What can I do? And we even do it through play. So I have little play figures where we might role play something happening, especially for like the littles. That works really well for them. I do drawings where we have a scenario. Maybe it's something that happened last week, but we make it about somebody else, that somebody kicked that person because they were so mad, and they get to be the person to say, wait, you need to breathe, or you need to, they get to be the expert and impact, and so we go through all these things. I make sure I get information back to the teacher so they know what we're working on. And I'm doing preventative. And even in the 2 months, I was doing that with, again, the tier 3 highest kids with the highest needs. We were seeing change. Do I have a minute to tell a quick story?
Yes.
So, okay, had a student, and he had violent outbursts. It felt like he'd go from maybe yellow to red so quickly and be very violent, hitting, throwing things, attacking. And so I was doing preventative work with him for these 2 months. And I would be, in the beginning, I was getting calls, Robin, can you come get this student? Robin, can you come get this student? He needs a reset. And so that's a little bit different work that I do, is when the child's in meltdown and they need to be regulated. I do that as well. But this student I was doing preventative work with, and we went over, I taught him all these skills, how to his feelings, and he shared with me things. And then at the last week of school, I got a call. Miss Robin, the student is, you know, he's crying, he's really upset. Can you come and work with him? And so I went walking, you know, as fast as I can over. By the time I got there, he did not need me. He had regulated himself and he was back engaged. And that happened with, this is a first grader, 6-year-old. And I had a second student, also first grade, same thing. Last week of school, I'm headed over, they need me, she's dysregulated, got there, and she had found a way to co-regulate with another student and then did not need me.
Is that because of the strategies that were being preventatively promoted?
Yes, like they were
Wow.
able before, there's no way they would have
Wow.
regulated without an adult. And these are 2 children, I mean, again, tier 3, very challenging behavior, that did not, at the last week of school, mind you, they didn't need me. And it was the first time that that had happened. And I'm wondering, you know, now I'm going to have a full school year. What impact can I have doing preventative work with these students, that by the end of the year, what's that going to look like? And we are going to be collecting this data in a PBIS data system for referrals and things that happen at the administrative level. So I can see, we'll have charts that we can even see, you know, how many, you know, if it went, you know, different months, and if it got better. We also use the DESA. So I'll have data that we can look at to see if it's made an impact or not. But I'm just so excited about it. And then also staff come to the wellness center, and they also say they need a reset. I do some support and just supporting them with strategies in the classroom. Sometimes they just need a vent. I've had some parents wander in that also come in and they need support. So I think that will be another capacity aside from, you know, having resources in the space. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Wow, Robin, this has been so powerful. I'm so excited to know you. I'm excited that you are on the planet. 2 things stood out to me before we close, these quotes that you gave, which is let go of the perfect. And you said, let me find it, just taking a curious stance, and the butterfly theme of how things unfold so slowly to create beauty. So Robin, I want to thank you for being with us today. We will follow up with you in the future when you have been doing your Mariposa Wellness Center for a longer period of time. So Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you.